Hello and welcome to another episode of Podcasting is War with your two main hosts, Critical, say hello.
Hello.
And eff-fume, that is me. This episode will round up the fall season of 2020, of which we watched a significant amount of. So we're also going to include anime sequels, which we didn't do in the impressions, I think. Okay. I sorted my list here after watching and completed. So the first one is Haikyuu. You wanna start with Haikyuu?
Sure thing.
Okay. There's
you first tell us how solid the production was.
Okay, we start with Haikyuu To the Top second season, which is the second half of the fourth season. Once again by Production IG. As we all know, Haikyuu To the Top overall has the new art style, which I quite like. Do you like the new art style?
I like it for the most important characters.
Who do you dislike?
I don't like how Asahi looks. But I like how Daichi. Daichi looks blander. But Hinata and Kageyama look gorgeous.
Yeah, Hinata, Kags, most everyone else looks the best.
All the new characters.
All the new ones, because we don't know how else they would look. But yeah, I at first couldn't recognize Akashi. When Haikyuu To the Top came out, I was like, who the fuck is this? Is this Akashi? But yeah, I now got used to his face and he looks quite beautiful, so I don't mind. Yeah, so this is the second half, which is what is the team called again? Inarizaki match with the Miya twins, of whom one is voiced by Mamoru Miyano, and he was very good.
Indeed, though I thought he's, compared to like Oikawa and stuff in terms of relevance, and I don't really see him playing that big of a part later on. And in this match alone, he was like only 30% as important as Oikawa. Like if Oikawa is all of Seijo, basically, like the absolute most important character, then like both Osamu, his brother, and Kita and Rintaro also had like more divided focus. So he wouldn't top my favorite characters list at all. I think my favorite character is actually Kita.
Of this team, yeah. You wanted me to introduce to the production, but I only stated the art style and then tried to change the subject with the characters, so we'll go back to that. Production-wise, which episode was the one that was outsourced again?
That was the second one, wasn't it? Or the third one?
I think it was the second one. It was the second one because that was so surprising, because first week, oh, it's perfect. Second week, bye-bye. We hit all of them.
But then the third one was the best one. The one with Tanaka and that very expressive cut of his spike that is like the only time that To the Top has really like done that kind of, I don't know if that was actually calligraphy. The first 3 seasons did some calligraphy stuff every now and then. But it was nice to see like some of that energy being brought back, because To the Top has like been better with like kind of coming up with new ways to present things, but like the base things like serves, spikes, blocks, they just don't have like the same impact that they used to most of the time, except for that Tanaka one.
Yeah, so the second episode was completely, I wouldn't say, was outsourced to some whatever studio. I forgot. So
I don't even
you
know.
don't even know, but yeah, so that one looked really clumsy. It had a bunch of, I don't even know how to describe it. Like the animation was like sliding. They were just sliding over the screen and off-model stuff, but occasionally you got like a nice frame of the characters looking normal. So it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be to me.
Including me, who also posted screenshots before watching.
That's always good, posting screenshots before watching.
It still looked better than Production IG's other show this season.
Yeah,
Noblesse.
Oh, yes, I forgot it was by Production IG. We will get to that when we get to that. Yeah, so the production was overall the weakest so far, even weaker than the first half.
One.
Yeah, but I always try to defend this because I think it has a lot of wide shots and angle shots from different angles that I really appreciate. Really low angle shots.
On the scale of beloved anime that change director and then like don't have the same qualities as before, this is like at the top of it, because it's pretty consistent with the previous seasons, but it's just not entirely the same.
Just like the title to the top, it still stays at the top.
Haikyuu lonely at the top.
Lonely at the top. Yeah. So that covered.
What did you think of the match? Inarizaki.
Inarizaki. I can't. Damn. So the team is kind of cute, but I didn't really get into them like I did with the purple ones here. And my top 5 characters are still exactly the same.
Yeah, they weren't as like big or imposing as like a group of antagonists. Like Oikawa was built up for a long time, so there's a lot of investment. Ushiwaka was also built up for a long time because he's introduced, I don't know if it was in season 1 or 2, but like very early on. And then he beats Oikawa or beats Seijo. He's not the only player on Seijo, though he is the most important one. And the Shiratorizawa match is still, in my opinion, like the peak of the anime.
Yeah, for me too.
I'd heard before that like the Inarizaki match is often considered like the best or the second best match of like the entire manga. And I don't know if this is because of the presentation like weighing it down for me, because like when I search my mind and my feelings about like what I would put above the other in rankings, the thing that like drives my decision is how emotional it made me, like how impacted I was. And like presentation being weaker can definitely lower emotional impact by quite a bit. But I remember like in the Shiratorizawa match in the climax, I was like fucking almost crying. It was just epic. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe how perfect all of this is. And then the end of the Inarizaki match just like kind of happened. Like it was a little anticlimactic, almost.
Yeah, I would describe it like that too.
Well, not anticlimactic, because like the last point, as in every Haikyuu match, was like a solid 2 or 3 minutes of just like that one rally. But like it looked basically exactly the same as any other part of the show.
Yeah, I also heard this team and this match is like the second best, but I was kind of not really impressed. I only really liked the Tanaka episode and like all the Hinata moments. Like it was peak Hinata season, which is good for me because he's my favorite anyway.
Yeah, I feel like it should be said that when you say or I say that we weren't impressed, it's just that like Haikyuu is always great, always has a certain standard of quality.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed as far as being consistent 9 out of 10 for me is.
Yeah, but we were hoping for this 10. To be like what would finally push Haikyuu to be a 10.
And it didn't. Something I'm not impressed.
Because we wanna give it a 10. We wanna give it so bad.
Yeah, like obviously if one is like, oh, I really want to give this a 10, then other people will be like, why don't you just give it? Well, obviously, because it doesn't feel like a 10 yet.
Yeah, because standards.
And like I have like every Haikyuu season at a solid 9 except the third one, which is a strong 9. This is like the closest I had come to a 10, but still haven't because it's one match. Yeah. The Kita stuff was good. The one Mia episode where they like introduced them as their twins was really good.
The very first one?
The flashback episode. Like with that Mia flashbacks, and Atsumu was like, I think you like volleyball a little more than me. It's like, this is good.
I love all the new characters, basically.
They're great.
Even though Atsumu isn't like a double S character to me, Haikyuu has like a pretty consistent stack of S tier characters, side characters. So
yeah, it's hard to dislike anything about it, unless you're like just a dislikable person or something. I don't know.
Or like I kind of was just like a little sad that I might not get that like feeling of the climax of Shiratorizawa where I'm like fucking bawling and bawling at the ball play, which might not happen. I don't know if that's because I watched season 3 when it first came out, which was in 2016.
Oh my god.
And I hadn't watched as much then as I now have, and like I've since rewatched Haikyuu more than once, and I've like kind of begun to get an understanding for like the kinds of tropes and like formulas that Haikyuu does, which means that like, you know, it doesn't necessarily hit as hard every time unless it does something that I think is like really clever.
Will you introduce us to these tropes?
Well, like the inserting flashbacks, or like the captain crying, you know, just like really loving volleyball, and really how do I say, what's another one? Just like these very motivational kind of sequences, or the way it builds tension, for example, or the way that like characters break down their plays, or like the commentary is given by the side characters. Like Tsuki is smart. He's always analyzing stuff, and therefore they always have him like commentating over the match as it's happening, and it's like, yeah, I get it. But now I'm sounding like a negative Nancy.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the only way a sports series can really flesh out the characters is with flashbacks.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard to to stay in the flow of time and have a lot of things happen, because, you know, in a sport you typically don't talk a lot, especially in a sport like volleyball where each point is only like a matter of a few seconds.
Yeah, so I don't mind it. One thing I mind is when they do the synchronized attack and they say synchronized attack every single time, and I'm like, no.
Shinkuro Kogeki!
And a few times they let it out this season. I was like, yeah, thank God. And then I once did it again. I was like, shit, we always had it. I wish they would stop doing that.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of corny when it happens.
I think Haikyuu is like one of the like purest distillments of like the weekly Shonen Jump brand, you know, friendship, effort, victory,
talent,
and just like wholesome vibes, and yeah, hard work, and just adventure, excitement, hot-bloodedness, while not being like childish at all, not being
corny,
stupid,
flowery,
not being overly repetitive or shallow. You know, like it's got a lot of complexity, both to the game and to like the characters and how they come together. So like, you know, it's not a battle series, it is a sports series, but like in the whole scheme, the whole batch of like shonen storytelling, I think Haikyuu is like at the top of what would be considered like a traditional approach to it.
Haikyuu is also like one of the few shows. Yeah, I would say so. It is one of the few shows where I'm invested in like all the characters because they're so likable and resonate so much. Not resonate. They are vibing. they ooze a lot of personality, basically.
Yeah, they give a lot of flavor.
It's not like everyone is just one note friendly or something. They have like an edge, sharpness to it, like Hinata especially. I mean, he goes in his zone and he can get quite scary.
Yeah, if there's one thing that To the Top has done, it's like it's made Hinata my favorite character, like easily.
Was it Kax before?
I like how he looks. It was Kageyama before, yeah.
Stan.
But like just and this is where like the art and visual storytelling and everything comes in. But just like when I look at Hinata's face and his expressions, they just have like a lot more oomph to them. So that I feel the moment a lot more when I see him.
Hinata makes me happy.
He does. He's
like
a wonderful
my top
boy.
One comfort character. Literally the sun. But yeah.
You're like the sun.
I was gonna continue with saying that nobody is one note, and even though the spectrum of personalities is similar, same-ish, they are all very rounded and unique, I would say.
Yes.
So Haikyuu is just fun to watch, and it puts a smile on my face when I watch it, and so did the season 2. Even when it didn't blast my pants off and I didn't give it a 10. I still loved it, and as I said, I gave it a 9. So
yeah, I appreciate how like Furudate occasionally, like little by little, will bring in like the bench warmers to do stuff. Like at first it was Yamaguchi, and Yamaguchi throughout the series has just been the pinch server, and I felt he like served a good role of like being that bench warmer and giving that perspective, and therefore I couldn't like feel as much, or I couldn't feel as much with Kinoshita in this season, but I also like Ennoshita, who was like the guy who will probably be the captain after Daichi graduates, because that was like another unique perspective. I didn't think like at first when Kinoshita came in, I was like, who is this guy? Oh well, I feel like I've seen him before, but like now they're acting like I'm supposed to care, because even before Yamaguchi like joined matches, we'd seen him like interact with Tsuki and them being friends, and him feeling, kind of shitty and stuff. So like when he first does his serve, it's like, it's the guy, I know about him and care about him a little. Didn't have that with this guy.
When Kinoshita episode happened, I was like, who the fuck is this again? Because I forgot what he looked like. And then the art style didn't help. So I was like, oh, it's him. I remember now. But this episode was good too. I was like, oh yeah, he's cute. Everyone is cute.
Every episode
I
is
love
good.
all of them. It's hard to dislike anyone when they're also likable.
Indeed.
Yeah, verdict, I don't know. If you haven't seen Haikyuu yet, watch Haikyuu. And if you've watched Haikyuu yet, good.
You are a good
don't
boy.
shit on the season because of the production too much. It was still very good. And top-notch anime.
Yes.
That's my verdict.
I agree.
Okay, moving on. Still currently airing Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh boy.
We have watched up to episode 12, so anything after I will not comment on, because I haven't seen it.
I think Jujutsu Kaisen is a very typical shonen fighting anime. It even reflects in the title, which is sorcery fight. And just, I feel like when I watch it, I appreciate the action animation. I think it's probably the strongest that the director, Park, has done. He's clearly a very talented animator and animation director, but I think his style has some problems, and obviously you do too. That's why I'm just saying it up front, because otherwise you would be talking about it the whole time. But a lot of smooth animation and also a lot of good shots in this, which I do think is an improvement, because I don't think the manga art is very great, which I know is controversial to say, but it's how I feel.
Because I feel.
You can.
Okay, so MAPPA is a very controversial studio at this point, because they try to grab any anime possible and adapt anything that is popular these days. So it's like a running gag at this point that when an anime announcement is announced, it's like, MAPPA? I guess they grab every anime. So it wasn't surprising when MAPPA
It's always MAPPA.
grabbed this one. And I figured they would probably improve the product with the visuals and animation they have, because I generally don't have a problem with MAPPA. I do have a problem with Park. I would say I fucking hate him. I don't hate him, obviously. I don't know the guy. I don't like how he directs shows. I've never seen a Park show that I liked the direction of. I kind of liked Garo. I think he did the Vanishing Line one. He was the director for that.
He did,
which had
that's how we
very
got to know
awkward
him.
direction, but the art was mostly good. So it dropped it. So
it was pretty raw.
It could be raw, but the first episode was like a hellish nightmare of camera shaking and roller coaster. It was wild.
Watch the Superior Garo, which is Divine Flame, and directed by Yuichiro Hayashi, the director of Attack on Titan final season.
Yeah, and don't watch anything past that has a Garo title, except the movie, which is just a sequel of the TV show.
Or the Tokusatsu show.
Yeah.
That's probably good. It's the
I'm
original,
talking about
so
anime. So.
we shouldn't discourage people from
if you
watching
watch
it.
tokusatsu, I don't care. That's not an anime. Not my business. But yeah, Park also was on God of High School. It was dreadful on all fronts.
The worst anime until
so I'm
now.
full of seething rage for this guy. And I watched this, and it's not awful on the animation direction or action direction. The animators are doing a good job, but I hate the coloring and the masking of like the animation is really bad. I get all kind of muddles together in this few colors in this one spectrum that I don't like at all. And that makes the show uglier than it could look. So I think the show looks really ugly. That's basically the point I'm building up to.
Wouldn't be a Podcasting is War episode with you being like, oh, the lighting and the color palette.
The color palette is not good. Especially at night, it looks really hideous.
What I don't like about JJK's visuals is that the character designer, Tadashi Hiramatsu, who is the character designer of Yuri on Ice, show very near and dear to me, but the school uniforms look like trash bags, and Gojo's hair looks like in those cartoons when an explosion happens, or like you get zapped with electricity, and it just like pokes out. And when he takes off his blindfold, he looks like a Shota boy.
Oh God! We're getting
so
to the blindfold. We're getting to that. So character designs. So up front, the art style is an improvement from the manga. I'm not trying to comment on Gega's art style. But the character designs in the anime are so, what's it called? I can't. Triangles. Not spicy. Spiky.
Angular?
Spiky hair. Megumi is his name, I think. He just looks like a bird nest. His hair is absolutely terrible. His hair looks like a bird nest.
And he has a trash bag uniform.
Yeah, the uniform is like a dark, like it's a mix of black and dark purple, more dark purple, and it looks really ugly. I don't like it at all. Very basic too, except like I guess the female uniform. It's like kind of has like it's kind of sailor uniform cut, but not really. It's still this weird tightness. I don't know. Very, very big uniforms. They all look oversized. And Gojo's design. And Gojo's design, as you already mentioned, his hair is something. They made his hair worse from the manga somehow.
Especially in the ED.
Yeah, he also looks very spiky. That's the thing. And the blindfold. Now we get to the blindfold. So I was interested initially in Jujutsu Kaisen because I like the guy with the blindfold because it looks really cool and hard, and I liked it. But then he takes it off, and apparently he takes it off a lot of the time, and I don't agree with that decision.
Oh yeah, at one point he wears like sunglasses instead of a blindfold.
In the manga, at least, when he takes off the blindfold, he just looks like a bishy boy, and I'm like, ugh. Like, he looked more interesting with the blindfold. He just looks normal now, and I don't care about that. But then in the anime, he has this kind of feminized face, and his eyes are like glossy blue, and he looks, I don't know what to call it, like his lips are glossy and stuff. And I'm like, who had this idea? Who did this?
This is the real reason he's just a discount Kakashi from Naruto, because Kakashi doesn't take off his mask.
It's probably for the better. So yeah, I don't like that design decision. Going back to the actual story, I think it's as generic and predictable as it comes, and I just don't like watching it at all. And I keep getting confused why it's so, I don't know, why so many people are on its stick, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of part of a larger, slightly controversial observation or opinion I have on anime and how it's received by people. Just like something like Jujutsu Kaisen, much like Haikyuu, but this is in a worse way. But Jujutsu Kaisen like adheres to all the tropes and conventions. Like it's exactly what you've come to expect from the genre and from the type. Like if you've seen one of them, you've seen most of it. You've definitely seen Jujutsu Kaisen before if you've watched anime for longer than a year. And as long as that kind of typical storytelling is done in a way without like causing a lot of issues or really like challenging or breaking people's expectations or tastes for what they enjoy, then like it'll always climb to like the status of being a masterpiece, even though it's something that's probably just like decent to good. As long as people don't really have issues with it, then they'll just find that conclusion, find the answer where it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I'm sure someone will explain to me why I'm wrong about this, but that's how it looks to me. Jujutsu Kaisen is a very, very average shonen, I think.
To actually evidently show that we are correct, what happens in the show? First episode, the MC is introduced as being stronger than other people, and he just throws this
superhumanly strong,
and I watched it
casually breaking world records.
And I said, I've seen this before. I've seen this exact concept, idea. Some guy throws some shit, and it's out of fucking range, and blah blah blah. He's so strong. Did this actually matter?
Yeah, and he's like a laid-back guy who doesn't really like care or have that much personality about him, but like people love him and he's kind of popular. He's got like this little group of quirky friends, and he's like the relatable one because he is just
what
like
is his catchphrase? He said it.
Know.
Yeah, there's the thing with saving people, living something.
Oh, that was his grandfather. But what Yuji says is like, I want people to have proper deaths. Thing. And that's his motivation.
So his personality is basically just that. But what does that mean?
He just wants to be a hero, he wants to save people because that's the good guy thing to do. And like I think they could have definitely given a better reason for it. Like I mean, his grandfather dying.
Spoiler, by the way.
Good by
Though
itself.
It's just the first episode.
I mean, that's the first episode and chapter. And like it's largely due to the presentation. Like it's the fact that he went to like his grandfather's hospital room and his grandfather was just like, save others. That's what you must do. And then he just dies in that same like within a minute. And then Yuji just like pulls like a little pouty face, like he doesn't even cry or get emotional. He's just like, my grandfather is dead. Oh well. And then that's like his entire motivation from then on forward. And it's like, that's really weak. Wouldn't it have been so much more interesting if like he had this kind of complicated relationship with his grandfather and then grandfather dies and then he thinks for himself that his grandfather had like a very sad life and didn't die how he was supposed to, and he doesn't want that to happen to anyone else. Wouldn't that have like made him just immediately like twice as interesting?
Yeah, like he has this idea of proper death, and I'm up to this point I'm still not sure what that actually means for anyone.
Well, we'll have to wait to see till someone dies properly, I guess. So far, they've just kept people from dying.
So he is somehow as proven that he has superhuman strength, more compatible with this demon that possesses him, or it's more like a relationship. I'm not sure.
It's like Kurama. It's like Kurama in Naruto, the Nine-Tailed Fox. It's like his buddy who is a little grumpy inside, and he's supposed to be a villain, but then there's kind of friends sometimes. I think Sukuna is more evil.
He can just tell him, hey, take over, fight for me, and just take it back. But what is his name? Sakuna? Sukuna. I was
yeah.
mistaken U's and A's and stuff. So Sukuna can just pop in, fight for him, and what's his name? Ruchi? Yuji.
Yuji.
See, I always miss a letter or something. Yuji. And
It's
Yuji
not a very
pops
memorable
in and
name.
takes back his body. And I really tried figuring out the mechanic, because usually it's you're possessed and the demon takes over whenever they want, or something like that. Or they have like an agreement or something.
Well, Yuji, when he first got Sukuna, he had like control over him and he could like suppress him. And then eventually they make a deal where Sukuna can like forcibly take over him for 1 or 2 minutes. I don't
Yeah, and
remember
then
which it was.
he just pops in and takes his body back. And I found this really loose. That was really loose establishment of like this relationship of these two. Like Uji is very flat, and then we have Sukuna, which is kind of the evil demon who's overpowered.
He's really strong
I,
and he can come in
I
and do
am
something cool when the
12
time
episodes in. I'm not
requires.
sure about either one's goals by the end of the day. Proper death, okay. What does the demon want? Yeah, loose is like the keyword I would describe the show.
And just like the presentation of characters' emotions and personalities just feels really like calculated.
Oh,
Like really like these are the things that I need to put in to make this manga
yeah, because
successful.
Uchi is like the relatable dude, kind of bland.
He looks like any guy I'd meet
Then we have
on the
the
fucking
woman,
street.
and then we have the stoic guy.
The stoic guy, the
And then we have
Kageyama.
the sexy, overpowered guy.
Yeah, the Kakashi, or the what's a different example of that? I guess like the Yami from Black Clover.
The
Just the
sexy
sexy
sensei
sensei.
/ mentor character / senpai or something like that. He is like the senpai, kind of work
He's their
sensei
sensei.
senpai. I mean, they're workers, so
Sensei senpai, sensei
and
senpai.
he's in his 30s or something.
He's 28, I
Almost
think.
30, so he's very old. He doesn't look 28, but especially with his new face.
One thing I think the anime did that's also an improvement is they like do a lot of ship baiting between Gojo and Yuji, having him like get really close and in his face and like just kind of sound
At the
horny.
start, at least, yeah, it hasn't been like that in a while, though.
Yeah, it
To
happened
my
like 2 or 3
dismay, it
times.
hasn't been that often. The comedy is very outdated, and it makes me feel like I'm watching an anime from 2002.
Yeah, it's got that 2000s outdated
And
shonen
that's
humor.
just all how I feel about it. Like, outdated, generic. I've seen this before. I'm bored. I'm bored and exhausted.
I mean, I guess like from purely the production, if we're talking the anime and not the manga, then like compared to like Bleach, which is like its most obvious point of comparison, then like this could be a better experience because like the production is obviously stronger and it like gets to the point a lot quicker. Bleach, I haven't watched the anime fully, but the manga takes like 60 chapters to get into like its first real story arc. Before that, it's like a lot of slice of life stuff and character building and like mini arcs. Though the comedy is also better than in Jujutsu Kaisen. And I also think Ichigo is a better main character, and the side characters are more interesting. Like there's there's a Latino side character who's like the best friend, and he's really cool, and he has like an actual motivation and backstory and
I've
stuff,
only
and it's
read
cool.
3 chapters of Bleach, but Ichigo already is sexier than Uchi. I always want to say Ruchi for something.
Yuji is, yeah, because that's the Yuji
Yuji,
Everlead,
Everlead, yeah.
the typical
Shit,
anime
it's,
character
it's
name.
actually a perfect name.
Yeah,
The villains. You talk about them.
I think they're pretty cool, even though Mahito, who is currently the main villain, and I think he still is in the manga, at least until like the past few chapters. Oh, he's clearly very influenced by Shigaraki from My Hero Academia, and that's something I think is fun, how you're already seeing like My Hero Academia's influence on newer works.
People will hate this comparison though.
But it's not like Mahito is a total... I mean, he's got like the kind of scarry, kind of ugly face, the long ashy hair,
the smug grin,
kind of, creepy looking weirdo.
His power is very similar too.
And I like the motivation of the villains, particularly like the volcano head guy, who is like, we're the new humans, so it's like a war between the humans and the curses who like believe they have rights. It's kind of like Shinsekai Yori with the rats. I don't remember what they were called. The Bakenezu.
You know the Japanese. I don't even remember the English now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't actually dislike the villain group. It's just
they're all right.
I know how this goes usually. Every shonen has like a villain group. Every single one. And this one also has like one that is already formed. So we just get glimpses of like the boss and then the actual villain, which is Mihito. What is wrong with me? Mihito? Who is that? I don't know. Mahito.
And the other important one is
Geto. Yeah, Geto is the cool guy. And I think Mahito, I will get it eventually. Mahito's design is kind of cringe. Like it's like the scars, not scars. They're like
the scars.
It looks like Frankenstein's monster.
Eyes.
He has like parts put together or something in the middle of his face.
I think that is the point, because his ability is related to like transforming.
Yeah, but
bodies.
That's like pushing it. I think it's really.
Yeah. It's just a little overdone. Like they didn't have to make his eyes different colors.
Yeah.
Or give him like the typical scar that's just like this stitched scar that goes over the eye. Like give him a cooler looking scar.
Just burn half his fucking face off or something. That's something I like usually. While the other guy is like, his design is less eccentric and he has a cool voice. I forgot his voice actor. Sakurai.
It's Sakurai.
That's funny that the white-haired guy is not actually Sakurai, but who was it? Oh, it was Shimazaki. That was an interesting choice of voice actor. So I like that at least.
As for what I said earlier about the way the characterization is done, both the main side characters that are introduced, Megumi and Nobara, they get like their backstory in like a particular episode. And Nobara's was controversially put a lot earlier than it should have been. Like, it was very recent manga content, and they put it very early. I don't see how it makes that much of a difference, though, considering what we saw, but there might have been cuts made and stuff. It didn't make me care about her, to put it that way. And it didn't help that it was the exact same backstory that Megumi had before, which is just, there was this female who was so nice and angelic. She was Mother Teresa herself, and then people hated her for literally no reason, and then she got cursed and died, and that's their backstory. And I was just like, that's the most cliche thing I have heard in my life, and they did it twice in a span of like a couple episodes.
The framing of her backstory was so weird because they showed like visually, I forgot what object it was, but like an object that indicated the death of that person, but I don't think they're actually dead. Or I forgot already because I talked to someone and they told me and I already forgot what they told me.
They told you they're not dead?
I think. I'm not sure anymore.
Oh, well, one of them was driven out of the town, I think. That was the...
Yeah.
People hated her and they harassed her, so she left town.
Yeah, but like the visual, the object they used, like they broke it in the show. Broken object visual, which usually means murder. Death, but then it's just, they were bullied out of town because they were from the city. They're like, that's a weird motivation for a character.
It makes me think of like the Devilman OVA from the 80s when Ryo is like talking about his father. And then he died. Hard cut to his dad just on fire. Ah!
Amazing.
So yeah, Megumi is like the most the most archetypal character I've ever seen, and there's like a million dark-haired, serious side characters like fucking Kakeyama, fucking Kuki Urie, and like most of those have the same voice. They're usually voiced by Kai Ichikawa. But recently, there arrived another voice actor that sounds almost exactly like Kai Ichikawa, but he isn't. And so the industry has taken it upon themselves to use him when they don't want to use Kai Ichikawa.
That's an observation I already forgot.
Yuma Uchida.
I regularly forget Megumi exists because he hasn't been relevant in the past few episodes we watched.
He's supposed to get some cool moments.
But so far he has made little to no impression on me. These random ass new characters we got introduced, even the panda has made more impression than Megumi. I remember the panda existed more than I remember Megumi existing.
Oh yeah, there's also the rest of the side characters, which is like the senpai group. There's like a talking panda, which is like, okay, that's a little silly, but like whatever, it's a nice meme. There's like this serious glasses wearing girl who is like violent and rowdy. And then there's a guy who only talks in the recipes of sushi, which is like, that's a terrible character. Like, they only have about like 6 characters. And then one of them is like a guy who just says sashimi every episode, and he does nothing. And it's really fucking stupid.
But the reason why he can't talk is because his power is like, when he talks, it's like, what is it called?
A curse, yeah.
Waves, sound waves. It's like his power. Yeah. So when he talks normally, it's like that. And I'm like, okay, I get that, but why did it have to be sushi?
Yeah, he could have just made like humming noises, you know,
or use your hands like deaf people.
did a little Yoda voice.
Don't talk at all. Use a fucking writing tool. Back in the day, and there was like this stereotype of anime character that didn't talk, but they only wrote down whatever they was gonna say. I kind of like that archetype. This one is kind of dying out, so they could have just done that.
Black Clover has a character that is actually my favorite. I don't remember his name, if it was Donovan or something, but he's on the Black Bulls, and he's like got the kind of mime look with like the black makeup on his lips and eyes.
Oh,
and he doesn't talk much, but he talks just like very quietly in the background, and he'll say like these really wholesome things like, I appreciate you so much, or some shit like that. And I'm like, that's actually funny.
Yeah, that's cute. Even though his design is trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jujutsu has been funny ever.
I didn't laugh.
I fucking they introduced this big muscular black guy, and like his introduction was just, I like women with fat asses, haha, please take me seriously now. And I'm like, I can't. I can't take this show seriously. It's so fucking pedestrian.
It's kind of self-indulgent in a way I don't like and nor appreciate.
Yeah. And the fact that there's only these few side characters, and like the panda is the one that's easiest to take seriously. Like, he has the most rounded personality, and he's the most like intelligent and mature of the fucking entire central cast. It's just absurd. And like the whole Jujutsu society seems very thin, you know? Like, we've only seen Gojo as like the fully educated exorcist guy. Like, he's the only sensei, the only like professional we've seen around. I guess apart from like the second episode where they introduce like one guy who gives Yuji a test. And then there's like these 6 or so students, 3 first years, 3 second years, and it's just like, is this really all there is? Like, this Jujutsu society has had to like guard the human realm from curses that pop up like every day all over the place for seemingly since the beginning of time, I guess. And there's like no clear structure to it, or like you don't feel like you're part of something big. Well, like if you watch like Blue Exorcist, which is another show of like this type, not only does it make sense that you're like focused on these high school students because like they are actually in the school and doing school things. But then like there's a lot more that is implied about the overall structure. Like Shinto temples, churches, they all have like different kinds of exorcists with their own like style of doing things. And just like the way that demons in that show works is a lot more logical than curses, which is just like, oh, curses come from negative human emotions. It's like, wow, I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah.
Just very thinly layered.
Before we stretch this section any further, I just want to mention one character. The guy who has his hair over one of his eyes. He has like this arc where he's just getting bullied relentlessly, and he meets like the villain guy, and they kind of make an alliance. And this is like the last part, like the last episode we watched. The bullying was very generic and bad.
Yeah, it was like something from the 90s.
Like they kick him down, they have smug looks, edgy smiles.
They're all ugly and bald and big.
One thing I kind of liked was one guy was a smoker, and he like put out his cigarettes on his forehead. That's why he has the hair in front of his face. That's kind of cool.
That's a really cool detail, yeah.
But overall,
it means
the
something.
bullying was just way too excessive. I couldn't take it seriously at all. It bothered me a lot. And now we have, and then I thought the problem is it transitions into this arc where Yuji is like friends with him, and Mahito, you know, and they fight Mahito and shit. And this is kind of supposed to be serious because his friend is getting killed, basically. Turned into a monster by Mahito, who he was like alliancing with, and became kind of edgy and evil because he took revenge on his bullies. And I'm like, this is not good. This is totally not good. This is not good. I'm sorry.
And Yuji like only became like friends with him because that would be really dramatic when it's revealed that he's like oh no, he's actually with the bad guy and he's doing bad things, and it's like, what are you doing? I thought we were friends. And it's like, I fucking knew this shit would happen.
I knew this shit would happen the moment I saw him in the opening.
His like spiral into darkness was just like not that interesting to me. Like him kind of going back and forth, like he thinks Mahito is like kind of a decent guy and he's got a point and kind of agrees with him, but he's also kind of shady. Like that stuff's good. But like I thought that he definitely could have been a more interesting character instead of just like, I get bullied by these really cartoonish characters and then I take revenge and then I have like a edgy look in my eye and then I fight the main character and then I get killed by the villain because the main character obviously couldn't kill him, you know, because that doesn't happen.
This will sound kind of funny, but there's very little bullying in anime, which is actually good.
Except for the bully arc.
Except for Koi no Katachi and Sangutsu, who made it realistic and rounded and made it make sense.
Actually, you know something? The first episode of My Hero Academia handled bullying better.
His childhood friend bullying him was more realistic than this.
Yeah. And I think My Hero Academia, like, on the surface, especially like in the first episode, it is more cartoony and lighthearted than Jujutsu like portrays itself as being. But like once you look deeper, it's actually like a lot more mature and sensible.
Yeah, also like spoilers for season 2. When Enji like beats up Toro, he doesn't have like a smug grin on his face, like edgy grin, like haha, got your ass. He just looks angry.
Yeah, they don't like go over the board with like hammering or smearing things in your face, you know.
Yeah, I don't actually wanna compare this to MHA just because it's another shonen I know and actually like, but because it's the only other example I have of bullying that I can pull out here. Because, you know, Koi no Katachi and Sangutsu are like realistic, they're not shonen, battle shonen, blah blah, so this is the only other example I have, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to compare things like this.
At least Yuji is better than Asta.
Yeah, he doesn't scream.
And we'll end it with that. I mean, he does scream.
Yeah, but it's not like agonizing pain. It doesn't give me agonizing pain. And enough with that shit. Moving on. Okay, next show. an actual one core that we completed the season, Maoujou de Oyasumi.
In what order are you like going through these alphabetically?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. No, score. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't see. Yeah, score and completed and watching. So.
All right. You want to talk about Maoujou?
Yes, I do. So this show is about the demon lord kidnapping the princess. Yeah.
Yes.
And putting her in his castle, which is just the title. And all she wants is to sleep, so the entire show is just her finding objects to enhance her sleeping experience. And while finding these objects, she literally kills demons in the castle. Like
she's just
she
chilling.
actually murders monsters inside the castle. Meanwhile,
she's kind of a psychopath.
Meanwhile, they wait for the hero to come and save her, which is like a childhood friends too and stuff. The best part of the show that the visuals are very good. And the voice casting is stacked as hell. Like the princess is Inoue Minase. The hero is Shimonohiro. Haha. The names sound similar.
The demon lord is Matsuoka.
Who else was there?
The wolf guy is Legoshi.
Yeah, Legoshi's voice actor, Kobayashi Chikahiro. Suobe Junichi too is this random side character, which I didn't really like. Yeah, so this is... Oh yeah, and there's also Hocho Otsuka too, because why not?
I feel like we can get by talking about this show very quickly in comparison to these other two, because it's just like a very okay comedy anime. It's got its gimmick. It's got like a cute girl that sells books.
Sells
the books. She doesn't sell books in the story, but she sells the volumes of the manga.
Oh, okay.
And she just goes suya every few times every episode, and then you go, she's so cute. That's hilarious.
She also has like these faces with really big eyes, which are really funny when they happen.
Yeah. And of course, it's another one of these, not isekai, but like RPG inspired fantasy things where it's just like, of course there's a demon lord and a princess and a hero, because that's what every anime is now. Tell me the last time you saw an actual inventive fantasy series in anime. It's probably Hoseki or Made in Abyss. But in between them, there's like 20 that have a demon lord as the focus of the world building. So
yeah, the demon lord in this show is actually like a good guy. Like, he's not much of a demon lord.
He's also just chilling.
Yeah, everyone is just vibing. My favorite episode, which I also thought was the funniest, was the second to last episode, with the hero actually trying to rescue her and she's just not into him at all. That was kind of funny. But yeah, this is like one of the most 6 out of 10 shows I've seen.
Yeah.
So like, if you're interested in this kind of gimmick, go ahead. It looks visually really nice. The opening is a fucking banger. Yeah, and if you like Inoue Minase, probably really get something out of this. But it was fine.
It was fine.
It was fun.
That's all I have to say.
Okay, next one. Sorted after score. Tonikaku Kawaii. You can synopse this one.
Very wholesome and cute romance anime that is just, I love my wife, and my wife loves me. And sometimes they kiss and you clap, and sometimes they hold hands and you go "aw," and it made me feel nice.
Yeah. So this show has a very mediocre production.
Character
I don't really
art
like the
is
art
not
style.
that good.
Yeah, the character art is pretty meh. Backgrounds are fine. They work with the characters. Characters themselves, the main guy is called NASA because of the dad being into the NASA.
Because of that thing he always says.
And he like studied and to be smart, but he's kind of an idiot the whole show.
Well, he's book smart.
He's book smart, but he's kind of an idiot. And he always goes... The entire point of his character is just going Tonikaku Kawaii the whole time.
Yeah, the point of the show is basically just that his wife is very, very attractive and lovely, and we're just supposed to be like enchanted and feeling lonely that she's not our wife.
And she's just a perfect wife.
Yeah.
And the show starts out with this incident, like he gets
Hit by a
run over
truck,
by a truck, but she saves him, she bleeds out of the fucking face.
and then he
And
works
then
hard.
he's like, yeah, and he's like, oh, you're so cute. And then she's like, marry
I'll date you
me
if
in
you
3
marry
years or
me.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
he
will date
works
you if you
hard
marry me in 3 years.
to be able to marry her like several years into the future, and then they just happen to meet again.
And then they marry.
It's like the kind of initial premise that's like very, very silly. I read like the or the premise of like bottom tier character Tomozaki-kun earlier today, and it was something like these two the main character is like the best Super Smash Brothers player, and then there's like the second best Super Smash Brothers player, and then he happens to meet her, and she's like a super hot girl who also happens to be in his class, and it's like, what?
Oh, I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, it's that kind of anime premise.
So this show's really cute and it gets the awe moments out of you, but it's not very funny. The fact that they're married doesn't really matter. Really, it's just if you watch an anime where they date on early, it's the same. Like
Yeah,
the fact
because they get
they're
married
18
before.
years old. They're 18 years old, but it's not like they're actually adults, so it's not really an adult romance. They don't fuck as far as I'm concerned.
They don't fuck or do much of anything. Like as far as they go, it's like very innocent kissing.
Yeah. And it bothers me. There's like this one side character who's like the childhood friend of one of them. And they are so annoying. It's also like one of these shows where I just wish none of the side characters existed because they bring nothing to my enjoyment.
Yeah.
Or to the plot itself. But they're here.
They got personalities, bro.
If you want a show with like the characters are married and actually fuck, I don't understand what my husband is saying is better. And it's shorter. And they're actually adults. And one guy is also an otaku, so you may relate to him.
And the wife is hot.
Yeah. And also recently just finished Mysterious Girlfriend X, which doesn't have sex in it, but it's very sexual. So that's better on that front at least. It's also kind of weird, but still.
Yeah.
My problem here was just the production is kind of it's not very funny. I dislike the side characters, and Nasa's kind of a daft fool. But it's not dislikable.
Decent.
Like I gave it a 6. I very liked 6. Might give it a 5 later. I don't know. But yeah, it kind of blew up. But it's like the usual blow up of a show.
Waifu factor.
That's decent to good, but it's actually like a 5 to a 6.
Yes.
So yeah, if it looks your type, just watch it. Or probably have already watched it. So yeah. Next one, Akudama Drive, a show I actually like.
I liked it so much, bro.
This one is a Studio Period show, and to everyone's surprise, it actually looks amazing.
It's the best looking show of the season by Studio Period.
And I actually know that Studio Period has a bunch of good animators and people on the staff, because I watch Uzumatsu-san, which has some cool Sakuga sometimes.
Yeah.
It looks visually consistent.
Naruto too has some of the best fight animation ever put to TV.
Yeah.
First season of Tokyo Ghoul also looked good.
So, but to talk about Akudama Drive. Akudama Drive is a cyberpunk homage to several classics, as is noticeable because every title of each episode is like the title of a movie.
Yes.
And every episode has like some similarities to that. And the script is actually written by Kazutaka Kodaka, who is the creator of the Danganronpa series. And you notice that in the visuals very much.
Yeah, it's got a lot of wacky personality and just coolness factor.
It has like it's 7 of them, right? There's 7 characters that on the surface look like wacky personalities, but they're actually 3-dimensional as far as the runtime goes. It has like these background transitions that the game has. It has these intermissions with mascots. It has the word hope in the first episode on like some fucking background ad. It has cyberpunk film, it has public executions and murder and a
Death,
military state and all the shit he likes.
fascism.
Fascism and social commentary behind style and rule of cool and all that shit. So I had a good time because I really like Kotoka.
And it's like one of these anime that has like, because something that you might find me complaining about in a lot of anime is just like when something tries really hard to be like, oh, look, these characters have a quirky personality. And like, here all the characters have very quirky personalities, but they're all like extreme people. Like, there's a reason behind it. You know, they're named after like their profession, of course, or like what they do. And they're like these insanely wanted criminals with very extreme personalities and extreme abilities. So like it feels very natural and it flows together well. And their dynamics are all very interesting. And each of them actually get like pretty compelling dramatic arcs as it goes along, and like all their characters are resolved very nicely. Despite there being, like 7 of them, all of them get their shine and their resolution and their just good material.
Also, best opening of the season.
Yes.
But yeah, just like every Kodoka show or thing he makes, there's the MC who looks like an ordinary person. This one even is called Ordinary Person, but in the first episode they get the title The Swindler, and by the end of the show she actually becomes Swindler.
Yeah, it's a nice character arc.
It's a really nice character arc, and the shit she goes through is really interesting and really brutal.
Especially in the last few episodes.
Yeah, in the last few episodes she does some really brutal shit which you wouldn't expect if you just look at her at the start.
Yeah, it's a great progression.
And she has like her partner who's like kind of stoic, which is Korea, which is like the best character in the show. I loved him so much. And he was by Umehara Yuichiro, which some people may know just from Goblin Slayer and such roles, but this one is his best so far.
Yeah. He nails that, like,
and he's super pretty,
gives,
oh my god.
Gives no fucks cool guy who also isn't like, he sounds kind of boyish too. Like, he sounds deep and like badass, but he also, doesn't sound too try hard.
Yeah. Of course, this show also has Megumi Okata actually voicing a woman.
For the first time ever.
Yeah.
And she's great. Especially her character, like, at first doesn't seem as natural, profound, I guess, as the other characters. As it goes along, she gets like one of the strongest arcs, honestly, which really made me happy.
Yeah. Slight spoilers for that. Like, her arc is like wanting power, which also just goes with the whole theme of the show, of the military police state taking power from the people and control. It's just all about greed.
Yeah.
So that she also really works with well.
The action is fantastic.
So good. Really engaging, really well choreographed. The setting design in every fight is like in a different kind of setting. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it has like different styles of being shot and of being animated, of being choreographed. It always feels like it's pulling something new out, like a new flavor, which makes sense because like each episode is named after like a different film, and those are a lot of different films. My favorite episode is episode 9, titled "The Shining."
Mine
and
too.
You can definitely see the references to The Shining in it, and it just has a lot of tonal range, and it fucking walks through it very smoothly. The
ending is kind of open, but it was fully satisfied.
Yeah, it's a complete and seamless experience. And I just really enjoyed all of it. Like, I got what it was trying to do, and I thought it did it well. At first, when I saw it in the preview, I remember you were like, "Oh my god, this looks amazing," and I was worried that, like, because the character designs were like pretty detailed and stuff, that like the animation wouldn't be that good. or that there be like a lot of CG and stuff, and there is CG, but it's all very good.
The CG with the robots.
And there's
Since we're in a future society.
And there's a lot of movement, even in the fight scenes. Like there's the brawler character who is the fighter, and he has like his fucking giant abs out in the open all the time, and he's a very detailed design. But like he moves all over the place like crazy, and it's like very impressive that they managed to do that. You can tell they spent a lot of time and put a lot of care into crafting the overall experience of it.
Yeah, the show looks gorgeous. The lighting is super good. The shot composition is amazing. Yeah, it moves really smoothly. The pacing is really good. I was worried at episode 11 that the pacing would be bad in last episode because I didn't really understand what the show was going for until I actually read the episode titles. then it all fell together.
Yeah. And
then
something
it all came
that
together.
I've been thinking a lot about with anime in general now is like character art. Like if there's a close-up especially of a character and they just look really nicely drawn, like there's good lighting, their eyes and hair and just all is really detailed and strong, that'll like really make an impression on you, and it like makes you look at their faces and like really pull out more feeling from it. Like you look at Courier's face and he's always drawn like beautifully, and you're just
He's
like,
so pretty.
I want to look at his beautiful face. And like by doing that, like while you're impressed by the art, you're also like seeing what he's feeling better. And for a character who doesn't talk a whole lot, then that's very helpful.
He has this gimmick that he calls everyone a shithead.
Yeah.
Which is super funny with Umehara doing it.
Yeah. You can like see the little child in him, even though he's more like well put together than all the other Akudama.
So this was the best show of the season, basically. Was there anything else?
Best new show of the season, at least.
Best new show of the season. Strongly recommended if you like anything good.
And for original anime, there were two standout original anime this year. It was this and ID Invaded,
which are both amazing.
Both are great, and I'm glad to see original anime that like actually have like a very strong vision and like cohesively fit together and are complete, because very few TV shows and anime are complete.
Oh yeah, if you just want a one core completed experience, there you have it.
Yeah, it's great.
I forgot to say the main character is voiced by Kurosawa Tomoyo, which some people might convince to watch this, so I'm mentioning it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gave this one a decent 8 out of 10.
I gave it a strong 8.
Very good. Next one, Maoujou no Tabi Tabi.
Yeah.
We switch.
Maoujou no Tabi Tabi is basically Kino's journey, but with a white-haired witch who travels from place to place and meets, different people with all kinds of issues. And it usually has, like, a darker tint to it, even though, like, it seems lighthearted at first. Whenever she gets to a new place, it usually has dark consequences. So that's, like, the kind of thing that's supposed to make you go, ooh, very interesting. And I thought it was mostly okay. Visually, it's okay. I don't feel like saying anything about it on that front. The different story arcs were, like, predictable, but also, like, fresh, I guess. Like, with each little arc, it did enough differently to make me feel like, this is, not getting super stale.
For me, the show is like a strong 4 to light 5. One episode, I actually read like a few chapters of the manga adaptation, since this is a light novel, where it's about this girl basically becoming a plant. And they put like that story and another story together in one episode, and usually every story is like an entire episode. So they cut out all the important shit and completely butchered the chapter in the anime adaptation. I was like, what the fuck? When that happened, it was so rushed and didn't really make sense for the story. And like all these things happen around Elaina, it's always grim, and that's fine. But every time something bad happens, just like Elaina's like, "Oops, I'm going." It's kind of weird.
The
And
lowest point of the show. Oh well, you can finish.
yeah, I was gonna mention that, so you do it.
All right. And the lowest point of the show was this arc where they try to save this young little girl from a killer. I don't know. Were they trying to save her from a killer or from becoming a
No,
killer?
no, for becoming a killer.
Yeah. But I guess they had believed that like the people she killed was like in self-defense or it was justified or something, and therefore they thought they could save her. So they travel back in time, and then they fail, and it turns out the girl just loves murder. And
It was
then they also throw
actually
in that like my parents abused me, but also I just love murder, so you can just kill me and not feel bad about it.
where it was like this one girl asked Elena to like help her with the witch powers to travel back in time because she recently had to execute her childhood friend who became a serial killer basically, and she believes that happened because she was abused as a child. And basically what happened was her parents were killed, and then she was put to her uncle
Also abused her.
who abused her, probably sexually too. I forgot if that was implied or said.
Yeah, they did.
But that was the reason. And so she thinks, if I make the parents alive, it will be fine. But like the timeline would still be different. And she's like, that's fine as long as I know that's like a dimension of my childhood friend being happy. That's fine with me. And I'm like, okay. But then like then I travel back in time. It actually turns out she herself killed the little girl, the childhood friend, killed the parents because, for one,
They
she
also abused
loves
her.
because she was abused by them and her dad sexually assaulted her. That's what she actually says. Like, my father did perverted things to me. Then I
Yeah.
killed them, and then I realized murder is actually fun. And I'm
And
like,
then she
what the fuck?
cackles like a madman and then charges at them with a knife, and it's all really stupid and terrible.
Yeah, and then she just kills her. The other girl, not Elena, kills the childhood friend, snaps her neck, and like this whole part with the anime was like really cool presented. It's like a character killing someone else, but just the circumstance was super edgy and not good at all. You can't do that. You can't just like that's too much edge. You can't be, oh, this character was abused by this character and also abused by this character and also they actually like murder and like this is too much. You have to calm down.
He
And then
can't
she
keep
and
getting
then she
away
kills her
with
again. And then
it.
Elena like and then Elaine and the girl travel back into the future, and Elena just runs out and starts crying. And that's like a kind of nice moment, but the reasoning behind this moment being this thing, this story, is just not good. And then after the like more wholesome stories in the last episode, it's just Elena going into a country where there are 18 different versions of her. I forgot the actual number. And one is like one that basically in her timeline this time travel stuff happened, and then the episode with the puppets, which was before in our order, happened, and the puppets like cut her hair off, so she had short hair, and she was just so depressed about all these things happened that she just didn't get her hair back, and it was like kind of edgy and tried to attack Elena in this timeline. So it kind of like comes together, but like the episode quality ranges from actual terrible to kind of mediocre, kind of weird, kind of confusing. The production values is really high, and I like how the show looks. I'm kind of sad that the script isn't good. Hello,
Okay, yeah, I'm
are you
adjusting my
passed out?
seat.
Okay, you. I talked so much, you passed out. So yeah, that was the show. Are you okay?
Moving on.
Moving
Yeah.
on. So in my list, it's Danmachi 3, which only I watched.
Well, you can talk about it for a bit if you want.
Yeah, so this is the third season of Danmachi, and I actually like Danmachi a little bit, like 5 to 6 out of 10 at least. Oh yeah, I forgot to say Machi no Tabitabi I gave a 5. I did say, but you did say what you give.
I gave it a 5.
Yeah, like, I gave it a lower 5 basically. So back to that other thing. Danmachi I give like this season also 5. It's a little better than season 2. To talk about what happened in this season, basically, Bell finds his monster daughter room, and they have like this dungeon with all the monsters they usually kill, but this one speaks, and they find like this whole monster group who can speak and are intelligent, and there's this whole plot with that monsters get like they also respawn, but the souls also like respawn because this was such a continuous cycle. They eventually became conscious, and like when the humans die, they also get like reincarnated, but like in this other realm, a dungeon is something different. And what I liked was that the season begs the question, can we actually make these monsters like their own species that we don't have to kill? Or like, like maybe that's not okay, we kill all these monsters, and it actually stays open, this question, by the end of the season. And like his daughter actually, like, spoilers, transforms into the bigger version, basically, and he has to kill her. It is necromancer that just met makes a necromancy on her, and it's like the only time it actually worked in his lifetime, and he's like, fuck old. So it was kind of retcon, but I was like, it's fine, because the of her dying was actually kind of sad. And there was also like a rematch of the, what is it called? Minotaur? Is that what it's called? The Minotaur fight that probably everybody knows from season 1. There was like a rematch. And this guy is also conscious, and he just wants to fight Belle until like someone wins or loses. Like he was like, now I win, see you next time. That was cool. I like that it actually like called back to like an event from season 1. So if JC Staff continues to make it, I will watch it, because I think it's decent. It's also good looking, because JC Staff cares about Danmachi a decent bit. Yeah, that was my verdict.
All right.
Next one. Mahoka, season 2.
The Irregular at Magic High School. And he is irregular because he is dating his sister. This season had like... I was about to attempt to explain the plot, but, I'm not entirely sure on the details of said plot. But I think it's a very stuffy light novel magic high school thing. It's like, our magic is science, and then they try to give like all the sciencey stuff, and I'm like, oh well, it's nice that you care about all that.
Yeah, they have like magic science, and Mahoka is like this product of its old time, where everything that was coming out had like a magic high school setting. And Mahoka is like one of the most selling LNs ever.
Yes.
Even though it has an incest plot. Yeah, all the visual this show is like on par with its prior season, even though it's
being a new studio.
Despite being 8-bit, which is a studio like. Except the audio system is kind of trashy at points, and the OST is like boom, 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 like this dubstep shit, which is just kind of what the fuck. I don't actually hate the MC. Like he's not bland per se. He's just stoic as fuck.
Yeah, he's just a Gary Stu, which is
he's a Gary Stu,
fun.
Yeah. And like I cannot really say if the plot is dumb or not. It's just kind of political and tactical, and all this. There's so much rambling about the magic science, which has me just like, I don't understand anything you just told me. So I can't even judge if it makes sense or not. But I felt like it was a significant improvement from season 1, which just really felt anticlimactic in these conflicts, and they were kind of stupid. It was really bland and really boring, and all the side characters sucked. And this one had like more focus on him and his sister and this other new character. The side characters were side characters. And like his relationship with the sister is kind of cute, so it's kind of weird they have to be siblings.
Yeah, I kind of ship it.
Yeah, like the framing is super romantic, and it's like, oh, they're so into each other, but I'm like, they are sister and brother. This is not okay. But it looks good. They look good together.
They look good in a photograph.
They look good together. And when you look up the covers, they're like also like together on the covers, and then really romantic and shit. And like, what the fuck? It's a little conflicting, yeah.
but it's the most unique thing about it, I guess.
That's the most unique thing
Though
about it.
I do actually. This is something I think about in a lot of different things. It's like when there is a world that's like defined by very different rules. You know, a world that has like magic, for example. Like why technology isn't explored more. You know, because if magic is like a natural part, like an energy source that you can like use in all kinds of ways, then there should be a lot of technology that comes from it, you know, because it doesn't just stop working as soon as you start using like metals.
Yeah.
uh, and Mahoka does do that, which I guess might be why it's so popular. Because I think in otaku circles they really love like nerdy shit like that, and they
Yeah,
love
this is
incest.
Index. Mahoka is like the reason I want to read Index, because it's also another one of these magic kind of scientific. It's called scientific dragon, you know.
Yeah,
Um, like it's this kind of niche in anime manga mostly aliens that I haven't really consumed at all. But Index sounds kind of cool, so I might just read the aliens.
I think Mahoka this season the story is like concerned about a lot of things that are like related to, you know, the world building, the school, and like what was set up about the characters, but I still don't understand why I should care about those things. So it's just kind of like a lot of talking about a lot of fucking things that I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, if that's what you want to do, but I don't feel anything for it.
It's a lot of concept mumble jumble that probably is interesting on paper, but it has so
Yeah,
little characters in its characters.
I was about to say, yeah, it's very on paper writing.
Maybe that's why it sells so good as Nevin.
Maybe
Yeah, it's yeah. I gave this season a strong 4, and I gave the first season a 2. So I
I
would
gave
say
this a
it gets
strong
better
4
over
too.
time.
And first time I watched the first season, I also gave it a strong 4. All right, I think I gave it like a 6, and then I lowered it to strong 4, and then I rewatched it, and then lowered it to a 2.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I don't actually think there is that big a difference, so I might have upped it to a 3 or so.
No, I remember the first season being really bland and anticlimactic.
Yeah,
But
it's
this
a
one was
3.
because the arc is like shorter. Like it's like one arc in one core season. And as I said, the side characters aren't that relevant, and the new things are more interesting. Like the new characters interesting. Also, at the very end of the show, there's like this one character who's also going to enroll in that school, and she's voiced by the voice actress of Megumi Kato from Saakano. And I like her a lot. So if there's another season they make with this character, I will watch it. Also, I got like the mornings, there's like another spin off or something in the works of
There is
Mahoka.
some movie.
Let me check that real quick. Mahoka Koko no Yu Tosei, which is the Hana student at Magic High School.
Is that about the sister?
Looks like it. A spin off of The Sister. Might have to watch that, to be honest. Might just have to watch that for the complete experience, you know?
See
Okay,
both sides of the story.
so that was that. Next one, Taisou Samurai. Also Mappa show.
Taisou Samurai is a show that no one watched,
But should.
but it's a show about gymnastics and fatherhood, and
Yeah.
it's pretty solid, pretty okay.
This show has like a funny bird, which made me laugh. It's visually very well put together. It has like CG gymnastics which are very well animated.
Yes.
Sometimes the CG can be a little often jarring, but most of the time it's well put together. It's also like a Mappa original.
Is it?
Yeah, it's an original. It's not another adaptation of anything.
I thought it was a novel.
No, it says original.
Great.
But yeah, it's about this father who raises a daughter who is into gymnastics, or like he's a professional gymnast, and he hurt his legs or
His
leg,
knee.
his thigh, his shoulder. What was it?
His knee.
His knee. Oh, that's terrible. So everyone wants him to retire, but then he's like, I'm not gonna retire, and then it's this whole
Oh wait,
this show.
it might have been his shoulder.
I actually don't remember now. He's an injured man, and you understand.
Yeah. They use their arms mostly in gymnastics. I think it was his shoulder.
No, but when he lands, he like oversways a little bit, so I think it was his leg.
He injured something.
He's an injured man. Okay, and it's basically about him reigniting his career while he has a rival who is 17 years old.
Is a
and
genius.
and he's talented and all that stuff. And there's also this samurai who joins
Ninja.
them, who wants to ballet. He's basically a dancer.
Well, yeah, he is a ballet dancer who ran away from ballet.
Yeah, and then at the end he returns. It's also about the dad spending more time with his daughter, who he kind of neglected because of his career, and all these things come together then pretty well, and it's also another complete and rounded experience.
Yeah.
It's not like an amazing show, but it's a good show, and I gave it a light 7.
Yeah, I gave it either a solid 6 or a light 7. It's in that range.
Yeah. So if you want something cute, watch it. Also, banger opening and ED. In fact, the best ED of the season.
Yeah, fuck you, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Next one. Kamisama ni Natahi. The Junmai show. Nobody likes. That's why it has below a 7.
Yes, sir.
So the summary is basically Yuji area lead encounters a little girl with pink hair and a nun outfit, which is probably John Maida's response to Index, who says she's God and is omniscient. Omniscience. And can see the future, and she says in 30 days the world will end. But actually, spoiler, her world will end, because the reason why she's a god is because she has a chip in her head, because she's actually
because she has a made-up disease called Logos syndrome.
Yeah, because she's actually like a disabled child who got a chip into her brain, which made her healthy.
Her smart.
But then like the I don't know who, mafia or government, whatever, hunt her down and get the chip, and then at the end of the show she's a disabled child again. But up until this plot gets revealed, it's just an episodic comedy, and the comedy is okay. There's also this episode with like this girl and her dad and the piano and all that shit.
Yeah. So basically, the end of the world is just a red herring, and it's one of several in the show, where Jun Maeda is like has a character say or do a thing and then give some really ridiculous, nonsensical recontextualization to it after. But like for like 8 or 9 episodes, you believe that the world is going to end, but just none of the characters give a shit. And at first it's like because they think that the little pink-haired lolly is not actually omniscient, but then she keeps like proving it, kinda, but not really. Like, she clearly doesn't know everything, but she's very good at like predicting things, making them happen in like very strange lucks of chance. But then, as you said, it's only her world that will end because the fucking government capture her and take out the chip, and it's like, oh, she's not actually Odin, the father of the Aesir. She is just a human experiment. Wow, it went from a fantasy to a sci-fi. Isn't that crazy? Fucking only good part of it was this comedy episode where they play mahjong, and the joke is that the main character just makes up a bunch of rules, and the judge like thinks he's like a radical, he's like a revolutionary, and he's gonna change the game. So they just like accept all his arbitrary made up rules, and it's funny. The rest of the show is not very funny at all.
The ending to the show is downright offensive. There's like no way to beat around the bush.
There's a lot of context to give though.
Obviously, you can begin.
So since the first episode of the show, when it started airing, me and F watched it, and then I tweeted, who wants to bet that the main character is gonna fall in love with a lolly, because Jun Maeda loves having his main characters fall in love with lollies or otherwise childlike infantilized girls, because he's kind of creepy like that. And of course that's what ends up happening, even though the main character has like this love subplot, romance subplot with like this side girl, his crush, that never leads anywhere, and it's straight up forgotten. It's not like he goes, sorry, I choose the lolly over you, but he just kind of like gives up and never speaks of it. So he falls in love with the lolly, and just as he does that, which he had no reason to do to begin with, she gets captured, and then she loses all her memories, and she loses her personality, and she loses, her mental faculties as a whole. And then he breaks into a mental hospital undercover, which he shouldn't have been able to do because he's a fucking incompetent idiot. And he spends the rest of the episodes just scaring and like being very aggressive towards her, like fucking grabbing her and shaking her and fucking yelling at her, and she's like clearly freaking out and starts crying, and then he's like, oh no, did I do something wrong? And then by the end of the show, we're supposed to believe that they like allowed him to take custody of this very mentally ill little girl, despite like everything being a massive red flag. And it basically ends with him having now taken her into his custody, and he's just going to be grooming her. Like, she's basically a baby. Like, mentally she is an infant, but he's still going to treat her like she's his girlfriend, It's extremely gross, extremely offensive. The entire portrayal of mental illness, and like especially at the hospital, like there's only one patient and one hospital worker in the whole thing.
There's nobody around ever. It's very bizarre.
And the hospital worker at one point is just like throwing out this mad theory that like you never knew her, you only knew the machine. What if that's the truth? And then like she says that as if it's a what if. And then after that, she just talks about it like it's fact. But then even though she did all that just to, like, create this nonsensical conflict, she still hands over custody to him, despite, like, having been fucking on his ass and telling him to get out the entire time. Fuck this show. I hate it.
So there's also, very late in the show, we also get introduced to this hacker boy who's very edgy and looks like the John Maida's answer to Accelerator. So because the whole chip in your brain has to make sense, so they just make this hacker boy that was indoctrinated by the government because his parents were abusive and made him hack into shit.
Yeah.
So they get murdered, and some government worker walks him to the house where everything is bloody. He just starts screaming, haha, they got your ass. And later he's like pulling up this hologram shit, and then he hacks into some pool and starts talking to the data dolphin.
Yeah, so he's introduced in like episode
8 or something.
Episode like 4 or 6.
He got the little foreshadowed.
He's just like shown like just walking on the street, and then he just puts on like these virtual reality gloves, and then he just like opens these holograms in the middle of the street, and it's like this Tony Stark type technology, only it, there's nothing around that could project these images. And then I think he like hacks into a car, and he just hacks into everything. And and then he joins the school of the main characters, and then he becomes like tries to go undercover and become friends with them. And then he's like, I gotta hack into the is it the internet he did? The sea of information. And then there's like this whole sequence where he dives into like an ocean, and he's like, oh, there's the data dolphin, and of course the fucking program whale, and here's the microchip, it's a goldfish. And he's just like talking to fucking fish and these underwater mammals and like shooting lasers at the whale as if that's like the portrayal of hacking. I've never been so confused in my life watching an anime, and people still want to like suggest that Jun Maeda could possibly be a good writer.
Jun Maeda makes only worse things each time.
I'm baffled.
And they all have the same pattern, like at episode 9, the big reveal, and like this episode had like everything you could do wrong went wrong.
It has all the same tropes. Like, it has the fucking overdone emotional shit, like, oh, he hugs her in the rain and he's crying and screaming and it's so emotional and it's like so patently manipulative. Of course, the love interest is like a fucking child. That's a typical Jun Maeda thing. Of course, she's also disabled or sick, which they also always are, because that's really sad. Isn't it sad when your 12-year-old girlfriend is mentally ill and you have to take care of her? Bro, I'm gonna cry. That's basically Jun Maeda's fucking writing in a nutshell.
The backstory to like her parents was also really weird, because he like seeks out the parents and they're like, he's like, this is your child, and then he's like, no, actually my wife killed herself because my daughter died.
Of course that would happen. Why wouldn't he write that? Because he's just going down his fucking list. Every anime he makes, he's going down his fucking list, and he's like, oh, what's a sad thing? Terminal illness, disability, she's in a wheelchair, her memories are lost, parents were abusive, the government is hunting us. What else? Someone kills themselves. Oh no, my dad is neglective. It's the entire fucking show. And there's this episode with the side girl, the love interest, for the first half of the show. And like the episode starts with her like sitting on the breakfast table with her dad, and her dad's like this like he's not well groomed at all. Like, he's clearly a bum. And they're just like eating toast, and he's just like not saying a thing. And then she's like, want to go to mom's funeral this year? And I'm like, of course, her mom is dead. And then he's like, nah, I'm not gonna go. And then she's like, you said you do this every year. You never go to mom's funeral. And then there's like this close-up of his face where like his glasses are all whitened out so you don't see his eyes. And I'm like, of course he would be a neglectful dad who's depressed because his wife died. And fucking... It's the same shit. It's the same shit every time. It's just like Clannad. It's just like Charlotte. I bet it's like fucking Kanon and Air is the exact same.
Probably. I mean, I haven't seen them.
And then, of course, in that episode, the big emotional moment is they find this videotape of the mom, and she's like talking in the videotape like, oh, I'm dead, but I love you so very much. And I'm like, oh my god, my dead mom is talking to me through a video. It's so emotional. It's just like more stuff on the list. I'm like, this is sad.
Don't forget that his love interest, whose mom died, is severely depressed because of her mom died, and then she watches this video of her mom, which the mom just has one advice, which is be happy.
Be happy, guys.
Which is a very good advice to give to depressed people, clearly.
Get over it. Get over it.
But yeah, I mean, you're really shitting on Jun, so people might find this offensive, especially with the infantilized main interest, love interest. But it's true.
I mean, I predicted it, and it turned out true. So, like, clearly, I'm seeing the patterns.
Like, not to call any of these characters like children. I mean, she's actually a child, I think.
This one's actually a child, yeah.
Like, she's definitely younger than him.
Angel Beats had like 2 lolly love interests. There's the white-haired one and the pink-haired one.
At least the design is very lolly. In Angel Beats,
she calls herself a lolly, and she says, I'm so lolly I could kill a virgin. She says it 3 times. 3 times.
Erased it from my memory.
And then there's like the subplot where the main character's sister wants to make a movie, and the sister has like 2 lines in the whole show, and then just a movie gets made, and it's I don't know. What was the point? What was the point
John
of
Maida's
any
response
of
to Haori.
it? Jun Maeda is just the most unoriginal, uninspired, repetitive, offensive, ignorant, corny, melodramatic, manipulative garbage writer in anime.
So I don't believe. I'm going to be the devil's advocate. I don't believe that John Maeda tries to be like a bad person, but he clearly has no understanding of any of these topics he's addressing,
He's
especially in
very
this one
ignorant, yeah.
with the disability, like the mental hospital, we'll call it. Mental hospital? No,
Yeah.
just the normal
Yeah.
disability hospital. Like, there's like no one around. There's like 2 security guards at the very end when he's getting pulled away after he has screamed and touched her 500 times. Like, he keeps getting told to not scream around her. She's scared of men. He keeps scaring her. He's somehow left alone in her room with her.
Well, I can't
Under
believe I
no
forgot
supervision.
this detail, because I mentioned the red herring before, which was like, oh, the world is ending. Oh, twist! It's actually just Hina's world is ending because she'll lose her brain.
Yeah.
And then there's another red herring in the last few episodes where the main character is like these poorly drawn cards of him and all his friends, and he's like showing them to her and like trying to get her to remember, and like every time she like knocks away the card that has his face on it, and it's like, oh, she hates him and she doesn't remember him at all. And then at the end, when he's about to leave, or like they're about to separate because she's gonna transfer to a different hospital, she's looking at the cards and she's like, he's not here. And she's like, who's not here? The main character boy, he's not here. And then the main character has like this inner monologue. He's like, that's why she always hid away those cards. It's because I was already sitting in front of her. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Like this main character only cares about himself. It's really bad.
Yeah, and then she, of course, regains her memories, and then she runs at him, or she's actually like in the arms of the hospital employee, and then she like knocks her away and falls on the ground, and it's really dramatic, and then she runs at him, and then they hug, and then they cry,
Don't
and she
forget the
goes, "I
piano."
love you," and then the piano comes in, and Jun Maida's just like,
yeah,
Alright.
I think Jun Maida makes me hate the piano.
I think he is a musical composer.
He
Like
should-
that was his original job. He made the music for key visual novels, and then he started writing, or he did the music and also wrote since the beginning. But he always did the music. And like, that's one of the most praised aspects of his shows. Like, people will be like, I listened to an OST from Clannad and it fucking made me cry. And I'm like, well, very nice. I wish it was in another show, I guess.
like Hina is clearly in better care in this hospital where nobody's screaming at her and shaking her and all these things they tell him not to do, but he does, and he just gets away with it. You can't
just gets
you
away
can't do
with it.
that.
Yeah.
You can't do that, and you cannot show this behavior to be fine. And hey, if you like, as long as your now disabled quotation girlfriend seems to be able to recognize you, the authorities will just give it to you. And that's not how
Yeah.
things work.
And like the entire time she's like not responsive to him at all. She's not like reacting or like remembering him or interacting with him at all. But then, of course, at the end, the moment they're about to separate, her memories start flooding back and she realizes how much she loves him. How dramatic and emotional is that? I'm like, it makes me furious.
And
It's an insult to my intelligence. It's an insult to yours and everyone else's. And it's worthless.
also, like,
Worthless.
the theme up to the disability subplot was like, live your life to the fullest. We lived our life to the fullest in the summer. And I'm like, fuck off. This is such a boring ass theme. Who needs to hear this? Live your life to the fullest. 14-year-olds?
Who could justify all that we've just talked about by saying, like, well, it all makes perfect sense because it's about them enjoying themselves in the summer. So, of course, obviously, it's a perfectly executed story. You know who didn't enjoy themselves that summer? Me. I did not have fun.
Hey, as long as you had fun this summer, it doesn't matter if you're fucking crippled. And your life is ruined.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
So yeah, that is a very low 1 out of 10. Don't watch it.
It's not the worst show of the season, shockingly enough, but it is my most hated.
Right, yeah. Last and least, the worst show of the season, Noblesse.
Yes. Webtoons are good.
I can't even summarize the plot of Noblesse because I'm not sure.
Noblesse is just like a teenage girl pretty boy fantasy series. Not fantasy like the genre, but like the state of mind. You know, it's every relevant character has like a really corny, dumb looking design. The entire anime looks like garbage.
By production IG, by the way.
And they're all like 2 meters tall, and every other character is like half a meter shorter than them. And it's just like these butlers that are like, oh, my master, I'd fucking suck your cock if I could. Will you please let me? And then like these other vampires get introduced, and they're like really evil and elitistic at first. They're like, we are superior blood, and then they're just like tsundere dipshits, and they get their ass kicked for the rest of the show when they join the main character side. There's these 2 side characters that are totally pointless, and then there's like a thing where they find out about the vampires, and they have to get their memories erased. And just like in Jujutsu Kaisen, the fucking like geeky protagonist friend kid, he like becomes a friend with a guy on the antagonist side who also has like an emo haircut over his eye. So the action is terrible, and all the designs and the visuals are terrible. The fucking I didn't even know what it was trying to do.
I don't think I have to say anything anymore. You said everything.
It like most of the show is just them hanging out at the fucking main guy who is a vampire's kitchen, and then the fucking long-haired blonde butler guy just like cooks food for him, and he's like, master, do you enjoy this dinner? and he's like, thank you very much, I enjoy it a lot. Oh no, a secret mafia society is attacking. I'll use my special ability to wipe them out. Master, I made dinner again. There's human experimentation. There's a gray-haired guy who can turn his fingers into claws because he's like a genetically engineered fake vampire. And
this is by far the ugliest production IG show I've ever seen. If nobody had told me this was a prodigy, I wouldn't have known.
If you think there is even a single shot or a single line of dialogue or a single character in this show that is not even good, but just okay, please show it to me. What part of this show is acceptable? Webtoons need to just be eradicated. You should not be posting serious works of fiction on your fucking text messaging app and then go on Twitter and tell people about how peak fiction it is. It's not. If it was, somebody would have wanted to publish it. But no one wants to publish it. That's why it's just dumped on here. Like every other piece of garbage. Just like God of High School. Just like Tower of God. They're all garbage. And you should value yourself more than that.
This podcast is just you going on a rant. destroying. Oh, oh my god. Oh fuck. This show is so ugly. I can't. I have nothing to add besides it's so ugly. It's so ugly. So I only watched this one because I wanted to complete the three unholy trinity of shitty webtoon adaptations. This was the third one. The other two was God of High School and Tower of God. And in the order of how they came out, that's how good they look. Like it only gets worse each time.
Yeah. I just find it hilarious how the three most popular and praised webtoons are all like 0.1s out of 10.
Trash. But
Like
there's still
abyss fiction.
There's still what it's called.
Solo leveling.
Solo leveling, that's actually more popular than Noblesse for sure.
Well, I've known about Noblesse for years. I only found about solo leveling after like Tower of God came in.
I think solo leveling is more recent. Yeah, I will check. Yeah, I watched like the Noblesse OVA that came out years ago, and that was really shitty and dumb. But it wasn't a 1 out of 10 at least.
At least in the webtoon, the main guy is like actually pretty looking, and he doesn't look like fucking dog shit.
Because the Noblesse has been publishing since 2007, meanwhile Solo Leveling since 2018.
But yeah, I assume like
so I'm right.
The people who like this the webtoon are also the people who like things like Black Butler or Pandora Hearts, but just nothing to do with the story. It's all about the pretty boys, and they'll just take whatever they can get as long as it has like homoerotic undertones,
or like
and
any
long-haired tall boys.
Male idol show.
Any male idol show, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or even Yukoku no Moriarty, also from this season, also by Production IG,
which I haven't watched.
Has like this kind of noble high society vibe where they're all like really formal, and there's like servants and masters, and like just really posh, really delicate, and very like romanticized and shit. It's whatever. I don't care for that type of anime because it just feels like it's trying to appeal to a very lowbrow standard of art, and it's like very transparently market aimed.
Further proving my theory that there never has been a good vampire story ever except Dracula and Hellsing Ultimate. Not a single one. Once.
Compared to this, Twilight looks like a masterpiece.
Twilight is mostly mediocre.
Not even that bad. This, however, is very, very bad.
Trashy, hideous, ugly, incompetent.
Nothing interesting, nothing worthwhile.
Generic, predictable, characterless, bland. I will name every word I can think of.
Nothing, anything.
Empty, hollow. Yes.
Worthless, meaningless, pointless, substanceless.
Trash.
Artless.
Trash. Dumpster. The underbelly of the
toilet hole.
The trash I threw out yesterday. Okay.
Doo-doo water.
That's it. There's also Burn the Witch, which we could comment on for a minute.
I think Taite Kubo draws sexy women and men. Burn the Witch also had a annoying simp character. He was bad.
He's not good.
Much in the way of story.
He shouldn't
Animation
exist.
was good. 3 really good character designs, and like a thrown-in Bleach tie-in at the end.
So. I like the concept in the world, but it's not very fleshed out clearly. I thought this was gonna be just an adaptation of this 15 chapters thing, but apparently it's still publishing, so there's gonna be more, which is bad because the setup so far has been really mediocre. Like borderline almost bad. The only reason why I don't give it like a 4 is because it was decently enjoyable and the females are hot. The females?
The females and the blue haired
the one guy was super hot. Like,
black haired.
Holy shit. The one guy was super hot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was well animated, but it's like forgettable, unmemorable, really cheesy plot somehow. Like there was this random ass friend character who was like, I picked up this dragon which then starts destroying the fucking city, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. You know, I don't think we're gonna top what we have just talked about, so we might as well end it there.
Yeah, we should end it. It's too long. So, therefore, I conclude the 2024 season of anime Roundup. Blah. Discussion, episode, podcast, whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next time.
Bye.